Hey folks, it's Shawnee Baby. Welcome back for episode 4 of my career playthrough in Kerbal Space Program. In this episode, I plan to land and return from the moon. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's head over to Mission Control and see if they have any moon contracts for us. There we go, another Explore the Moon contract. Not quite ready for a rendezvous or a transfer mission, but I think we can handle this spacewalk in orbit. So why don't we go ahead and pick it up? Looks like there isn't anything else worth picking up though. Before we do anything else, I'm going to head over to R&D and research the general construction tech for the struts to keep our ship from wobbling. Alright, so let's head on over to the VAB, and instead of starting from scratch, I'm going to pick up where we left off last episode and load up our moon flyby and just make a few modifications to that. We had more than enough fuel for a moon flyby, so hopefully with just a little bit more we can land and return from the moon. Since I plan to land my upper stage on the moon, one trick I like to do is add my fuel tanks horizontally so I can mount my landing gear to it, giving us a larger base for landing. Next, since I never know which side of the moon I'll land on, I'm going to add some lights just in case we end up landing on the dark side so we can actually see the ground when we land. And that's it. Hopefully that should get us to the moon and back. Let's go ahead and save this as a new ship in case we need to load it up again. And it looks like our landing gear is clipping those nose cones a little bit, so I'm going to adjust our fuel tanks down a little bit here. Oh yeah, one other thing. When I originally crafted this ship, I forgot to put a separatron for the very top of our ship that holds the science and our pod. Let's add that now before I forget again. Alright, we should be ready to go then. One thing I like to do before launching a new vessel is to check all of the resource levels to make sure I've got everything ready to go. And it looks like I forgot to remove my monopropellant. So let's get rid of it now since we don't have the ship equipped with any RCS thrusters. That will help keep our weight down and give us some better fuel efficiency. And while I'm at it, I think I'll tweak the heat shield down a little bit since we shouldn't need the full 200. And after a quick systems check, I noticed a fatal error in my staging. That separatron we added earlier was going to be firing off just a little bit too early, and we would have lost our engine for the top stage. Let's recap all of the ship's features. I've got my standard array of science with 3 mystery goo containers, a barometer, a thermometer, and a materials bay. We've also outfitted the ship with a couple small radiator panels, some solar panels, a couple radial parachutes, and small landing gear. And for our lower stage, we're rocking 5 swivel engines and some winglets and nose cones for better aerodynamics. And we are finally ready for liftoff. First things first, let's get this thing into Kerbin orbit. The moon's orbit lines up with Kerbin's equator, so I'll be pointing east for my orbital trajectory. And here I make some minor tweaks to correct my eccentricity, so we line up with the moon for an easier encounter. Now that we're mostly lined up with the moon's orbit, we can finish our Kerbin orbital burn here. There we are. And now that we're in orbit, let's set up a maneuver to encounter the moon. I've always found it easiest to line the moon up at the 12 o'clock position and set my maneuver for around the 5 o'clock position. Since I plan to land on the moon, I'm aiming to get a pretty close encounter, so I've got the apoapsis at just over 20K. Now let's execute our moon encounter burn. Well, that does it for our lower stage. Hopefully we've got enough fuel in our upper stage for the rest of the trip here. Now that I've encountered the moon, I'm going to set a maneuver to orbit. And it's time to burn. You know, we're lined up pretty good with that crater, so I'm actually going to set up a maneuver to land there. I've found it's best to set your maneuver to overshoot your target. And here I am executing my landing burn. Since there's no atmosphere on the moon, we should be safe to deploy our landing gear now. We're getting pretty close to the moon's surface here, so I'm going to start slowing my speed down and prepare to land. Once your speed meter switches over to surface mode, I like to latch onto retrograde for an easy landing. Looks like we're headed for that crater there for our landing site, so I'm going to make a quick adjustment here and pitch up a bit so we can land on a flat surface. Even though I'm landing on the light side of the moon, I like to turn my lights on to better gauge my distance to the ground. Touchdown! Now that I'm safely landed, to save on electricity, I turn off my SAS, the lights, and I also like to shut down my engine just so I don't screw things up. And now it's time for some science. Looks like we landed in the east side crater. Well, we've made it this far. We may as well plant a flag now and claim the moon in the name of Shawnee Baby. Alright, there's nothing left for us to do here, so let's head home. Time to re-engage SAS and to activate our engine again. And I'll be aiming at the 90-degree vector for an easy encounter with Kerbin. Since the moon's atmosphere is so light, you don't need to pitch very high to get into orbit. With an apoapsis just over 20K, we should be safe from hitting any mountains now. And to ensure we don't, I'm going to set an orbit just around that same mark. Now that we're back in moon orbit, let's set a maneuver for a Kerbin encounter. So I plan to aerobrake in Kerbin's atmosphere. Since I plan to aerobrake in Kerbin's upper atmosphere, I'm aiming to set a periapsis of just around 50K. Oh, I almost forgot about our mission. Let's do a quick moonwalk in moon orbit to complete that part of the contract. And it's time to execute our burn. There we go. Right around 50K, just as planned. Now that we're in Kerbin's atmosphere, let's activate those small radiator panels to help us from overheating. Once we've passed our periapsis, I'm going to start burning retrograde to slow us down even more. And now that we're safe from overheating, let's deactivate those radiator panels to conserve electricity. And we're back for our second pass. Now that we're in the atmosphere, let's turn those radiators back on. And hopefully this time we'll slow down enough to actually land on Kerbin. And it looks like our wish is coming true, so I'm just going to burn off the remainder of our fuel. I'm going to hang on to our fuel tank and engine as an added barrier for the heat, since the materials bay overheats pretty easily. But as soon as we lose control here, I think it's a good time to bail on it. And there we are. Home sweet home. Look at all that glorious science. Well, that does it for this episode. In my next one, I plan to rescue some Kerbals in low Kerbin orbit. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching.